Once again, thank you very much to all speakers and moderator. Bapak dan Ibu mohon untuk masih tetap di dalam ruangan karena sesi belum berakhir. Jadi sekali lagi kami mohon kerjasamanya untuk tetap berada di tempat karena kita akan lanjutkan untuk sesi berikutnya. Jadi jangan kemana-mana. Baik, Bapak dan Ibu sekalian, kami persilahkan untuk duduk karena sesi berikutnya akan segera kita lanjutkan kembali. Jadi sekali lagi Bapak dan Ibu sekalian, seluruh peserta kami persilahkan untuk berkenan duduk. Ya, kepada seluruh peserta, tentu saja nanti di akhir acara kita akan ada hiburan bersama Eid Gitaf. Untuk itu mohon untuk masih tetap bersama dengan kami di dalam ruangan ini dan kami persilakan untuk segera duduk. Kami ucapkan selamat datang kepada Ibu Sophia Watimena, Ketua Dewan Audit Otoritas Jasa Keuangan Republik Indonesia, beserta tamu undangan VIP lainnya. Baik, Bapak dan Ibu yang kami hormati, kita akan segera memasuki agenda berikutnya. Sesaat lagi kita akan dengarkan bersama keynote speech yang akan disampaikan oleh Ketua Dewan Audit Otoritas Jasa Keuangan Republik Indonesia yang akan mengangkat tema mengenai Collaborating for Cyber Security, the Role of Government, Financial Institution, and Tech Innovators. Bapak dan Ibu, kita sambut Ibu Sophia Watimena.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sore, salam sejahtera bagi kita semuanya. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Yang kami hormati para narasumber dan moderator dalam kegiatan pada sore hari ini, para Deputi Komisioner, Kepala Departemen, pejabat OJK, tadi saya melihat dari beberapa kantor OJK juga hadir, perwakilan direksi, pimpinan lembaga jasa keuangan yang hadir pada Indonesia Fintech Summit dan Expo 2024 pada hari ini, Bapak Ibu undangan yang berbahagia yang mohon maaf saya tidak sebutkan satu persatu. Puji syukur kita panjatkan ke hadirat Tuhan atas terselenggaranya acara ini. Sangat luar biasa ya, tadi saya diinfokan ada sekitar 5.000 peserta yang hadir. Tentunya tepuk tangan ini untuk panitia. Amat sangat membanggakan ya. Bapak Ibu hadirin yang berbahagia, terkait dengan ancaman cyber. Microsoft dalam Digital Defense Report 2024 menyampaikan bahwa ancaman cyber semakin berkembang, menjadi lebih berbahaya dan kompleks. Ancaman tersebut mencakup peningkatan aktivitas threat actor yang semakin masif, serta ancaman ransomware yang baru-baru ini juga dialami oleh beberapa perusahaan, baik di dalam maupun di luar negeri. Berdasarkan data studi oleh Microsoft tersebut, diketahui bahwa batasan antara nation state threat actor dan cyber criminal semakin kabur. Dalam beberapa kondisi, nation state threat actor juga melakukan serangan dengan motif ekonomi. Contoh target serangan dari threat actor yang berasal dari Tiongkok berupa fasilitas militer dan TI di Laut Cina Selatan termasuk di Indonesia. Selain itu terdapat peningkatan sebesar 2,75 kali dalam serangan ransomware yang dioperasikan oleh manusia. Meskipun jumlah lembaga yang melakukan pembayaran tebusan mengalami penurunan. Peningkatan serangan ransomware ini menunjukkan adanya ancaman yang cukup signifikan yang tentunya perlu menjadi perhatian kita bersama. Ancaman lain yang tidak kalah signifikan dalam sektor jasa keuangan adalah tindakan penipuan atau fraud yang sering terjadi. Bentuk penipuan yang berasal dari serangan cyber mencakup phishing, peniruan identitas atau impersonation, dan pengambil alihan akun atau account takeover. Phishing adalah bentuk serangan untuk menipu penerima email sehingga pelaku kejahatan atau threat actor dapat memperoleh informasi sensitif yang dibutuhkan untuk melakukan penipuan. Berdasarkan data, serangan phishing meningkat sebesar 58% pada tahun 2023 dengan perkirakan dampak finansial yang cukup signifikan, yaitu sebesar 3,5 miliar US dollar di tahun 2024. Selanjutnya kita juga mengenal deepfake, di mana penyerang meniru penampakan seseorang dengan berbagai motif. Serangan peniruan identitas bisa dilatar belakangi oleh motif finansial, dan motif lainnya seperti merusak reputasi seseorang. Dengan terjadinya perkembangan teknologi hacking, proses pengambil alihan akun masih didominasi oleh teknik sederhana seperti phishing, keylogging, dan penggunaan kata sandi yang bocor di dark web. Merujuk kepada hasil studi lain oleh IBM, laporan kebocoran data 2024 diketahui bahwa terdapat peningkatan rata-rata biaya kerugian yang ditanggung itu cukup besar ya, sekitar 4,8 juta US dollar. Lebih lanjut lagi, masih jelas dalam ingatan kita beberapa insiden yang terjadi terkait dengan ransomware yang menyerang pusat data nasional. Kita juga ingat penggunaan AI ini juga memunculkan risiko tersendiri. Ada insiden di Kanada terkait Air Canada yang membayar ganti rugi kepada customer akibat chatbot AI-nya ini menerjemahkan airlines policy-nya berbeda. Jadi kemudian memberikan informasi yang salah kepada customer terkait dengan bereavement travel atau perjalanan dalam rangka kedukaan, di mana seharusnya klaim atas bereavement travel rate ini dilakukan sebelum pemesanan tiket, namun chatbot memberikan informasi dapat diklaim hingga 90 hari setelah penerbangan. Akibatnya Air Canada harus memberikan kompensasi sebesar itu. Nah, melihat insiden dan hal-hal yang saya sebutkan tadi, tentunya kolaborasi antara regulator, lembaga jasa keuangan, dan inovator teknologi perlu menyelaraskan langkah pencegahan, deteksi, dan remediasi terhadap insiden cyber di sektor jasa keuangan. Regulator dalam hal ini OJK, BI, Komdigi, BSSN, dan lembaga lainnya perlu menjalin kerjasama yang intensif terkait dengan hal ini. Bapak Ibu yang kami banggakan, berdasarkan Undang-Undang OJK dan P2SK, peran OJK dapat dipilah menjadi 3 kategori, yaitu pengaturan, pengawasan, dan pelindungan konsumen dan masyarakat. Beberapa ketentuan terkait penerapan teknologi informasi dan manajemen risikonya antara lain adalah POJK 11 2022 tentang penyelenggaraan teknologi informasi oleh Bank Umum serta aturan pelaksanaannya. Kemudian POJK 75 tahun 2016 tentang standar penyelenggaraan teknologi informasi bagi BPR. Kemudian POJK 4 2021 tentang penerapan manajemen risiko dalam penggunaan TI oleh LJKNB serta pedoman keamanan cyber atau Cyber Security Guidelines untuk penyelenggaraan inovasi teknologi sektor keuangan. Dalam pengawasan dan pelindungan konsumen, OJK juga memiliki peran yang tadi sudah dijelaskan secara panjang lebar oleh Ibu Kiki. Lembaga jasa keuangan memiliki peran penting dalam menerapkan manajemen risiko yang efektif serta mengimplementasikan solusi keamanan cyber. LJK juga perlu menyediakan budget dan SDM yang memadai, mempertimbangkan hasil survei yang dipublikasikan oleh Deloitte, NASCO Cyber Security Study 2024, diketahui bahwa hanya 12% Chief Information Security Officer yang merasa anggaran diberikan sudah mencukupi kebutuhan. Nah, ini tentunya perlu menjadi perhatian kita bersama. Selanjutnya, berdasarkan hasil survei dalam laporan Global Digital Trust Insight, diketahui juga bahwa keamanan cyber dapat dijadikan sebagai keunggulan kompetitif. Nah, hal-hal ini perlu dirangkum secara bersama, disinkronis, dikoordinasikan supaya menjadi policy mix yang sangat optimal untuk melindungi semua pelaku dan juga konsumen. Secara lengkap, hal-hal yang bisa dijadikan pembelajaran bersama antara lain adalah monitoring yang berkala atas kerentanan, Kemudian penggunaan hak akses istimewa perlu dikontrol untuk mengantisipasi threat actor, memperoleh hak istimewa dan melakukan instalasi malware, serta memperbarui user case skenario. Nah, ini semuanya perlu diorkestrasikan secara baik untuk melihat apakah organisasi cukup siap atau tidak, dan ini tentunya memerlukan kolaborasi antara regulator, pelaku, pengguna, dan tentunya asosiasi. Itu sebabnya kami amat sangat mengapresiasi adanya kegiatan pada pagi dan sore hari ini hingga beberapa hari ke depan. Semoga segala sesuatu yang kita upayakan dapat bermanfaat untuk menciptakan ekosistem sektor jasa keuangan yang sehat dan berintegritas. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Ibu Sophia Watimena atas speech yang baru saja disampaikan. Ibu izin kita akan selfie bersama, boleh Ibu? Biar tambah semangat kita akan abadikan momen ini. Sejenak izin kita akan pindahkan untuk podiumnya. Ya, kita akan mengajak berfoto bersama Ibu Sophia Watimena. Terima kasih sebelumnya telah berkenan hadir Ibu, menyempatkan waktu di tengah jadwal Ibu. Ya, rekan-rekan fotografer mungkin bisa bersiap dan mohon izin Bapak dan Ibu mungkin bisa ikut bersama dengan Ibu Sophia Watimena. We would like to kindly invite to speakers and moderator to accompany Ibu Sophia Watimena. Bapak dan Ibu sekalian, rekan-rekan masih semangat ya meskipun sudah jam 4 sore lebih. Kami persilakan untuk berdiri sejenak, kita akan selfie bersama Ibu Sophia Watimena. Bapak dan Ibu rekan-rekan boleh berdiri sejenak. Kita akan sejenak abadikan momen ini karena tinggal satu sesi panel discussion lagi. Ya. Oke, kita akan abadikan 1, 2, 3. Sekali lagi boleh berikan senyum terbaik, mungkin dengan tangan digenggam ya Bapak dan Ibu biar tambah semangat, yang belakang juga semangat ya. Oke, berikan senyum terbaik 1, 2, 3. Sekali lagi mungkin yang belakang tangan diangkat kali ya biar tambah semangat ya, biar nggak ngantuk ya. 1, 2, 3. Terima kasih, thank you very much. Terima kasih Bapak dan Ibu, kami persilahkan untuk kembali ke tempat. Please return to your seat. Ya. Terima kasih Ibu Sophia Watimena yang telah berkenan hadir dan memberikan keynote speech untuk acara kita pada sore hari ini. Bapak dan Ibu yang kami hormati, selanjutnya kita akan segera memasuki untuk sesi diskusi panel selanjutnya. Ya, kami ucapkan terima kasih kepada Ibu Sophia Watimena yang telah berkenan hadir. Baik, Bapak dan Ibu sekalian, kita akan segera memasuki untuk panel discussion. Sesi berikutnya yang akan mengangkat tema Strengthening Cybersecurity in Financial Services, Collaborating for Resilience and Innovation. Bapak dan Ibu yang kami hormati, untuk sesi panel diskusi berikutnya akan dilaksanakan dengan dua bahasa, yakni bahasa Indonesia dan Inggris. Baik, ladies and gentlemen and distinguished guests, this session, speakers from local and international speakers will explore how collaboration between government, financial institution, and the private sector to enhance cybersecurity resilience in Indonesia's financial services. And allow me to give you a snapshot of their expertise. And for our first speakers, Ibu Uli Agustina is a seasoned financial expert with extensive experience in banking and financial regulation, currently serving as the Director of Digital Financial Asset and Crypto Asset Supervision at Indonesia's Financial Services Authority or OJK. Her career spans key roles in banking supervision, quality assurance, and sustainable finance. And joining today is Bapak Muharto, Division Head of Information Security at Bank Rakyat Indonesia, with over 20 years of experience at the banking industry with a deep expertise in security, technology, audit, and risk management. And the session will also welcome Mr. Victor Indajang, Operations Director and Chief Operating Officer at FIDA, who brings extensive expertise and experience in developing Indonesia's digital identity landscape, and as well as Mr. Robert J. Morris, founder and CEO of Cybe, is a technology executive with over 30 years of experience in tech startup, software and system engineering, business strategy, and enterprise architecture, specializing in taking innovations from concept to commercial. And Mr. GP, as an associate partner at the McKinsey & Company, will moderate the session, and GP is an experienced business builder and fintech expert with a sustainability focus, and he is a core leader in McKinsey's regional financial services, venture capital, and AI practices. He was also a founder and a chairman of the Indonesian Fintech Association, or AFTE. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause to our speakers, Ibu Uli Agustina, Bapak Victor Indajang, Mr. Robert J. Morris, Bapak Muharto, and of course our moderator, Mr. GP Ellis. Boleh kita berikan tepuk tangan yang meriah Bapak dan Ibu sekalian biar tambah semangat. Terima kasih.
Alright, selamat sore semua. Senang sekali dapat hadir di acara yang baik. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, shalom semua. Wow, incredible. I can make a joke about, wow, udah sore, the last panel, but I think this panel is so exciting that everybody is on the edge of their seats. So before I get in and really talk about one of the most important subjects in financial services today, I'd like to just sort of frame what's at stake. So at McKinsey, every year we publish an annual technology trends. We publish it in July, it's available online, and this year is one of the 15 key themes shaping the world is cybersecurity. And I'd like to just share a couple numbers that I was reading on the way here, which really illustrated to me what's at stake. So 39% is the growth in global cyber attacks since 2022. 61% the growth in global phishing attacks in the same time. And 10.5 trillion US dollars is the estimated forecasted losses from cyber attacks in 2025. So much is at stake in this incredibly dynamic and fast evolving environment. So I'd like to start with maybe some general questions before we dig into the big ones. But you know, in this current cyber landscape, right, in Indonesia, right, it's evolved a lot in recent years, right? And in financial services particularly, it's been very fast moving. If you don't mind, I'd like to start with you, Ibu Uli. What's your perspective in terms of what are the big themes governing cyber security now?
Thank you, John Patrick Ellis. Related to the questions, the cyber threat landscape in Indonesia, I think I need to read the data first. Actually, our current state of Indonesia cyber threat, as you mentioned, concerning the readiness for digital transformation across industry is still lagging behind. Our data back in 2023 itself, that Indonesia banking sector experienced a lot of cyber attacks happening in some major banks like BCA, Bank Syariah Indonesia, Bank Bali, and the last one, the BFI Finance. And our National Cyber and Crypto Agency, BSSN, actually recorded around 403,990,813 traffic anomalies. As the top threat, over 100 million incident is coming from the generic Trojan rat, followed by the phishing, around 47 million. And our SOC radar surveillance also identified the hardest hit actually from the ransomware is related to the manufacturing industry, covering 17.97% of attacks, while professional services is around 12.02%, and the finance and insurance actually lies at the lowest rank. It's only around 3.04%. Again, as technology evolves, we really know that the finance sector is the one that prone to have the exposures to the threat itself. But again, we believe that strengthening the cyber resilience is the key for this industry to become an urgent priority right now, to have collaborated together with the industry, regulators, and related ministries.
Thank you so much. Wow, fascinating. I wasn't aware that that is the lowest industry, but certainly this is fast evolving. Maybe to you, Victor, you have a very interesting perspective being at one of the very fast-growing fintech companies specialized in this area. What's your perspective of the current cyber landscape, and particularly with financial services? What are the key themes that we're dealing with?
Yeah, certainly. I think what we have noticed so far in the field is, as you can hear from Bu Lee, the numbers are staggering. In reality, those threats can happen through traditional channel like social engineering. But now the difference is they start to utilize AI-generated fraud. So reality right now is AI is being used for fraud, and through fraud they have go into account takeover, and beyond the account takeover they use the technology to also take over through forged identity. So a lot of methods are similar to the traditional way, but they have leveraged AI to generate those fraud. And it is very convincing fraud that can fool the institution and resulted in a big loss. And this is becoming more critical because from another data, I don't want to share too much data, but another data that we have is in the Southeast Asian region itself, from the Southeast Asia economy data, right now 50% of our transactions are done digitally. And this just shows that the cybersecurity resilience is becoming more and more critical nowadays.
Wow, fascinating, fascinating. AI usage, resilience, so important. Pak Moharto, ini saking penting ya dari bank besar, apalagi Bank BRI yang cabang nasional dan kreativitas luar biasa di bidang digital. Gimana Pak Moharto, perspektif Anda mengenai tim-tim yang sangat penting ini?
Yeah, I will answer this in Bahasa, if I may. Since most of the audience are Indonesian, so I'm going to answer this in Bahasa.
Bahasa Jawa aja kita ya Pak.
Baik, terima kasih pertanyaannya Pak. Jadi landscape cybersecurity di Indonesia, kalau berdasarkan pengalaman kami di BRI, yang memang bank terbesar di Indonesia ini ya Pak ya, dan terbanyak cabangnya, itu masih didominasi oleh ancaman, kalau spesifik Pak, ransomware. Itu spesifik masih mengancam. Itu sudah mungkin kalau pengalaman kami sudah lebih dari 5 tahun ancaman ini ada. Tapi ya semakin kesini semakin kompleks, semakin challenging untuk didetek, Pak. Jadi semua percobaan ancaman cyber ini, mulai dari SQL injection, mulai dari phishing dan lain-lain, ujung-ujungnya itu adalah ingin menguasai infrastruktur kita. Infrastruktur kita dikuasai dengan cara pertama data itu di capture untuk ditarik ke atas, kemudian kedua sistem kita di ransom gitu. Itu ancaman yang paling urgent, yang paling kritikal di cybersecurity. Yang kedua adalah phishing, Pak. Phishing itu juga merupakan ancaman yang sangat-sangat sangat-sangat nyata dan terus evolve. Setiap hari terus evolve gitu. Ancaman terakhir mungkin kalau Bapak Ibu pernah lihat di HP, sekarang masalah pajak itu, aplikasi pajak, ya kan. Jadi nasabah itu harus ditanya mengenai masalah pajak dan dia harus download aplikasi yang kemudian aplikasi itu akan men-take over device kita. Jadi kalau saya lihat ya semakin kesini semakin kompleks, keberadaan digital kita semakin luas, Pak. Semua solusi digital kita itu pasti sekarang facing internet dan semua yang facing internet itu pasti akan ada risiko cybersecurity di sana gitu. Jadi semakin kompleks, semakin besar ancamannya dan ya kita harus menjawabnya dengan ya secara umum adalah kontrol secara berlapis-lapis. Mungkin gitu ininya Pak, sederhananya. Terima kasih.
Wow, yeah, saking kompleks ya. Robert, you have a very interesting perspective on this. We want to hear. You're a CEO of a company. You have a very deep global but also local perspective. Really interesting to hear your view. What are the key themes we're living under, and particularly with financial services? What are some of challenges, but also opportunities? What are some of the opportunities for greater resilience, greater security?
Yes. 90% of all data breaches originate from a human interaction. That's why the hackers are actually going after the individuals within your organization. They're targeting your staff. Anyone who's connected to your corporate network is a potential target. I think the IBM cyber threat report last year stated every organization starts with a 60% risk of having a data breach. And then it's up to the organization, their processes, their policies, and their staff education as to whether that risk percentage increases or decreases. One of the most important things that has been proven is that the best investment for an organization is to invest in cyber education, because investing in a healthy cyber education portfolio for all of your staff, starting at cyber hygiene, cyber awareness, then looking at cyber leadership, cyber management, response and recovery, and then the specialty training in advanced cryptography, digital forensics, human-centric cybersecurity, skilling up your team, that can have an impact of reducing that 60% risk down to as low as 10%. It's quite amazing. And that's why we see from the data earlier that now, and it has been like this for a very long time, the number one threat to the financial industry is spear phishing and phishing attack. We have a saying in cybersecurity, hackers don't hack, they log in. They like to steal accounts, they like to gain access to environments, and then they move laterally inside your organization with an ultimate intention to perform financial fraud.
Wow, incredible. So I like the idea that you said about cyber education, cyber inclusion, because I remember when FinTech first started, we talked about financial inclusion. Are we at a point where we need to talk about cyber inclusion now and education? And a little bit, maybe penasaran juga ya, Bu Uli ya, when we think about the evolving landscape, what is our perspective on the current regulations and how are we evolving to meet the ongoing needs?
I want to echo what our Commissioner, Ibu Sofia Watimena, mentioned just now in her speech, that actually as Indonesia already faced the challenges of the incumbent technology advances, Indonesia also already created laws regarding information, electronic transactions, and then also personal data protection as a part of the groundbreaking for all the established regulations. And OJK itself, as the Financial Service Authority, already created, as also mentioned by Ibu Sofia, we have POJK number 11 for implementations of information technology in the commercial banks that also applied for non-financial institutions. And also we have what we call it POJK number 21 about digital services by commercial banks. And this is also having the circular letter about digital maturity assessment for commercial banks. Within this, our supervisor will closely monitor the implementations of the banks itself business plan on providing themselves with the correct and suitable and sound practices and infrastructures for them to be able to cover the gap. OJK also released our digital resilient guidance for commercial bank industry as for the strengthening of the banking industry in digital era to assist the digital transformations and providing digital transformation banking services starting back in 2022. And regarding with the current data security measures, we also align our frameworks with National Institute of Standard and Technology to enhance our cybersecurity by launching our cybersecurity guidelines. We held a cyber bootcamp for internal stakeholders and cyber awareness for financial sector technology innovations. This is something that I would also align with Morris mentioned before. Digital skill professional in Indonesia still quite lacking. That's why Indonesian governments is estimate that around 600,000 digital talents are needed annually to support both financial sectors and broader digital economy initiative. This gap could only bridge by improving educational frameworks and vocational training provided by institutions. Collaborations, again, I mentioned collaboration, synergy between government entities, private sector organizations to develop such kind effective trainings to equip individuals within the financial sector itself with necessary digital skills. Actually, because we believe that around 212.9 million internet user in Indonesia, it means that Indonesia has a growing number of digital transactions and online services. Many citizens still have lack basic understanding of the cybersecurity principles, such as recognizing whether this is a phishing attempts, deep fakes, securing personal data, and even utilizing strong password. This is something that becoming basic understanding, and this gap of course leaves our individuals vulnerable to cyber threats, making them easy target of course for the cyber criminals.
Wow. Thank you so much, Ibu Uli. That's very interesting and very sangat lengkap juga ya. Now, I'm really interested, Pak Victor, you discussed about AI before, and we know that AI can be used on offensive. What about defensive? What are we seeing in terms of how financial institutions and other practitioners can potentially use, AI to detect and mitigate some of the threats that you described before?
Yeah, certainly. I think it might sound cliche, but actually to combat AI, we need AI, right? One of the most basic principle of AI is we have a massive amount of data that we can use and identify patterns out of it. So using AI, it can be used for bad things, but it can also be used for good things, especially when it comes to prevention. Real-time threat detection, the massive amount of data can be used as a pattern to detect the future potential pattern as well. We at FIDA, we used all this machine learning to help identify deepfakes and how to identify patterns to prevent future breaches. So yes, we can use AI to identify and prevent, but moreover, with the digital transformation that's happening in this country, the usage of AI is inevitable because it's not just about prevention, but once you use AI, you can also use AI for further authentication with security. You can use it for repeat user through authentication using advanced biometrics. So we can use AI definitely to our advantage as well.
Incredible. Pak Muharto, menindaklanjuti yang kita bahas sebelumnya ya. So AI is being used on both the offensive and defensive side in a context of a very robust view on regulation from OJK. what are some of the imperatives for banks? What are some of the key things you're doing? And what would be the overall prognosis or outlook for the banking sector on this very important subject?
Yeah, the use of AI in real world in banking, right, Pak? Ya Pak, untuk AI memang kita seperti Pak David bilang ya, kita tidak bisa melepaskan diri dari AI karena AI ini sudah mencengkeram seluruh kehidupan kita ya, seluruh titik kehidupan kita. Begitu juga dengan cyber security, Pak. Jadi AI ini bisa dipakai untuk kebaikan, bisa juga untuk kejahatan. Nah, contohnya sekarang serangan-serangan cyber yang kita detect gitu, Pak. Itu di generate itu menggunakan tools otomatis yang kita cek, Pak. Jadi serangannya itu jumlahnya sudah tidak 1-2 lagi, jumlahnya jutaan gitu, Pak. Sekali serang dalam hitungan detik gitu ya. Dia pakai apa kalau nggak pakai automation tool atau AI kan? Dia pasti pakai itu. Nah, di sisi kita, bagaimana kita menggunakan AI ini untuk melindungi diri kita. Nah, tadi contohnya bagus juga. Jadi kami juga menggunakan juga untuk AI ini, Pak, bisa digunakan untuk KYC misalnya. Untuk KYC, jadi selain memudahkan nasabah dalam melakukan KYC, ini juga digunakan untuk lebih detailkan pengecekan KYC kita. Misalnya contoh untuk user kan atau nasabah bila mau login atau sebagainya inginnya mudah, ingin cepat gitu ya. Nah, dengan adanya AI kita bisa lihat behavior dari user ini. Kalau user behaviornya memang authentic user, dia akan cepat melakukan authentication. Kayak 2FA sudah cukup. Nah, bila nanti ada percobaan unauthenticated user nyoba masuk ke dalam sistem kita, bila kita lihat behaviornya ternyata tidak sesuai dengan behavior authenticated user, itu akan diperbanyak factor authentication-nya, automatically diperbanyak gitu. Nah gitu contoh-contoh penggunaan AI bisa seperti itu, Pak. Satu, yang kedua untuk deteksi kita juga kita gunakan AI juga. Jadi di SOC kita, Security Operation Center kita, itu kan mendeteksi serangan dari seluruh dunia, Pak. Nah serangan-serangan ini sekarang sifatnya kita nggak mendetek menunggu ya. Jadi sifatnya kita bisa merespon lebih cepat lagi. Dengan apa? Dengan melihat behaviornya, pola-pola serangannya seperti apa. Pola serangannya dapat dari mana? Dari analisis menggunakan AI. Nah ini yang penggunaan AI yang real world kita gunakan di lapangan gitu, Pak. Terima kasih.
Wow, interesting, Pak. Interesting. Saya juga sangat setuju. It's happening all over the world. It's very evolving. And so, Robert, with your perspective, what do you think Indonesia can learn from international cybersecurity frameworks? Are there particular standards? Are there particular things that should be adopted here to strengthen resilience and improve security?
Yes, there's a lot we can learn in Indonesia from overseas. PDP law is very new here. In Australia, the Privacy Act was first written in 1988, so they have over 30 years of experience of implementing and evolving privacy legislation, and there's a lot we can learn from Australia. We look at Europe, GDPR. They've been going for nearly 10 years since the very inception of their first legislations. We can learn from the mistakes. That's the most important thing. If we look at what were the cause of the sanctions being applied, I'll give you an example. British Airways were sanctioned 150 million British pounds for breach of consent. And that was their failure to revoke consent under the GDP law. So there's a lot we can learn on how do we implement really complex real-time consent management, how do we protect data privacy, how can we use selective disclosure. Many of the global states are starting to look into the new standard of verifiable credentials to enable selective disclosure of data and verified trust between individuals. So we really need to look at how that's evolving and how Indonesia can adopt. Cybe and one of our products has been focused on developing verifiable credentials and digital trust exchange capabilities so we can create trust between individuals, whether it's citizen to business, business to business, or citizen to citizen. Being able to mutually verify each party before the transaction occurs will enable us to completely remove the risk of financial fraud occurring within the hostile environment of the internet. In terms of standards, cybersecurity standards, Australia has standardized on the Essentials 8. The United Kingdom have their Cyber Essentials, which is very similar. And it's good to see that Indonesia is starting to look at what standard will become. I don't think it's been set completely, but I was happy to see the NIST framework being referred to in the earlier slides. The US government obviously applies NIST, but it's very important that Indonesia sets a government position for the security framework that they expect to be applied for regulated industries and for government agencies. This has a huge benefit, not only in learning from other countries, but also in the collaboration space and the sharing of data, because cyber threats don't know borders. They operate all over the world, and the hackers are unregulated and highly funded. Yeah. Whereas, it's harder for the regulated industries because in some cases, some of the banks have fairly small budgets. So it's how do they allocate enough of their budget to develop really robust cyber resilience programs under those frameworks.
Wow, fascinating. Yeah, there's so much richness outside in terms of experience dan mungkin sederhana banyak yang sudah buat dosa di luar ya. Jadi bagaimana supaya kami tidak mengulangi kembali di sini. So maybe I'm interested, Bu Uli, and we're running out of time, but what innovative approaches or technologies is OJK considering to adopt to strengthen the cybersecurity practices? What are some of the innovations or adaptations that you're making?
OJK, of course, commit to foster financial innovations while ensuring strict compliance with cybersecurity and data protection regulations. Through initiative, we have a regulatory sandbox launched back in 2018. OJK provides a control environment where financial innovators can develop and test new solutions, balancing the need for the advancement with consumer protections and regulatory standards. With its expanded mandate in August 2023, we oversee that financial sector, technology innovation, digital financial asset, and crypto asset. OJK also implement a quick wins to accelerate all the evaluations in the sandbox. And as of April 2024, we have 108 FSTI entities already undergone the assessment, highlighting our commitment to support advancement for AI and blockchains in financial services while still maintain our high regulatory standards. Of course, this is also compliance with our established national regulations. We require all the entities to align with cybersecurity standard as set by our National Cyber and Crypto Agency, BSSN, our Ministry of Communication and Digital, ComDigi, and we have our internal POJK regulation that I mentioned before. OJK also plays a quite critical role, especially in the banking sector, where we have developed a frameworks with cyber incident response and recovery. We are expecting and encourage banks to adopt advanced technology, reporting within 24 hours if there is an incident of cyber attacks. This approach also includes inside our Cetak Biru Transformation Digital, our roadmap, the blueprint which guide our banks toward digital transformation while still supporting multi-activity business model to deepen our financial market integration. To ensure this, we have specific oversight and performs regular on-site and online audits. As I can mention to you that our on-site auditors, our examiners also equip ourselves with AI. So, for example, if we want to examine BRI, who has branches all over Indonesia, and for the quality asset, we did in a population basis, not sampling, using AI. So we can perform anomalies, we can perform specific asset quality measurements providing, for example, for the repayment capacity, we can check whether the transfer money coming for the payment regular in time, something like that. It's all done using an AI, and we did that.
Wow, incredible. Very
And again, this comprehensive actually regulatory frameworks enable OJK to promote our sustainable growth in financial innovations. Of course, safeguarding our consumer protection, reinforce financial stability across the sectors. Our supervision models, as I mentioned just now, that we have our risk-based supervision. This is also will establish all, not only in the banking sectors, but provided to other non-bank financial institutions, and later on will for ITSK as well. So this means that we can focus our more resources on high-risk institutions while allowing innovative but low-risk entities to grow with lighter oversight. This provided they maintain strong cybersecurity measures.
Wow, thank you. Victor, as financial institutions prepare to, adapt to this new reality, what are some concrete, recommendations that you might make that they would have to do to assess and improve their readiness? What are a couple concrete recommendations that you think financial institutions need to undertake?
I think first thing first, for sure we need to comply. That's the most basic requirements to the regulations that's already out there from OJK, from Bank Indonesia, for financial institution. I think that is the most fundamental compliance that has to happen. On top of that, there is a lot of reference, like this NIST, I think Woli also mentioned, the NIST cybersecurity framework, and also the ISO 27001. However, on a more practical side, I think after we benchmark ourselves with all this standard and framework, we also need to have a continuous feedback loop, because the threat are evolving so fast. The feedback loop also need to be very fast. A lot of time we at FIDA always advise our client that we together need to build a very effective incident response time or incident response team, whereby whenever a new threat is detected, we need to be able to immediately respond and have a process in place on how to respond. And that is how we learn as well from the method that is happening. And after the response, then we need to also build a measure of effectiveness. We can implement all kind of method, the deepfake prevention tools, deepfake shield, but at the same time, the needs to measure how effective they are, this has to be in place, because this will be the information that will be processed further for the future pattern. So we always help our client on identifying the threat, implement the prevention, and also post-review, so that we can always enhance and anticipate the new pattern.
Wow.
So that will be my advice and suggestion.
Very good, wow. Pak Muharto, we're almost out of time, but I'd love to hear, you as the bank, when you look at your cybersecurity readiness, your tools, your teams, kalau melihat keluar, kira-kira bank yang besar di luar, kayak toko-toko apa, kayak abang-abang apa yang kita dapat inspirasi? Who are some of the leading banks in the world when you think of where we need to get to? Who are some of the idols that you look towards?
Where we need to get to?
Yes.
Ya, saat ini memang ancaman kita semakin berkembangnya itu AI, terutama Pak, itu AI ancaman real yang kita hadapi di lapangan. Nah ini untuk menghadapinya, nampaknya memang kami perlu lebih banyak kerjasama dengan sesama bank dan regulator juga gitu. Dalam konteks, contoh nih Bu, ya, dalam konteks kriptografi Bu, quantum computing itu sudah di depan mata. Menurut hemat saya, 5 tahun ke depan kita sudah ada applicable teknologi yang bisa kita gunakan ya. Bila itu sudah running, semua kriptografi yang kita gunakan di bank itu akan dengan mudah dilibas dalam hitungan menit. Yang tadinya ratusan tahun untuk di-crack, sekarang hanya butuh menit. Nah ini, kalau menurut saya kita perlu ada semacam R&D antara regulator dengan bank-bank atau dengan seluruh industri finansial lah Bu ya. Jadi ada R&D yang mungkin diketuai oleh OJK, yang di sana tuh kita bisa mengeksplor bareng-bareng. Pertama, mengeksplor apakah kebijakan-kebijakan yang dituangkan dalam PBI, dalam POJK itu implementable di lapangan, real implementable di lapangan. Kalau kita kerjasama bareng, apa yang kita create bareng-bareng tentu sudah merefleksikan apa yang kita lakukan di lapangan gitu, bisa cepat dengan diserap di bawah. Itu pertama. Yang kedua, tadi teknologi baru seperti quantum computing, kemudian deepfake dan lain-lain, itu kita sama-sama bisa standardize kontrolnya. Kita create standardize dalam Pokja atau R&D itu. Nah ini nanti secara bersama-sama kita tentukan implementasinya di seluruh lingkungan financial industry ini dengan misalnya minimum requirement untuk mengamankan produk-produk kita seperti apa gitu. Jadi dari kriptografi, deepfake itu kita ada minimum standard yang bisa kita implementasikan ke teman-teman di seluruh industri perbankan. Itu impian saya terus terang Bu, kalau bisa direfleksikan. Terima kasih.
Apa Bu Uli ingin merespons?
Mungkin saya meresponnya dalam bahasa Indonesia.
Ya,
Baik,
silakan.
kita tentunya sangat menyambut baik ya. Tadi sebagaimana di awal sudah disampaikan, diskusinya tentunya adalah bagaimana menciptakan suatu standar, tapi standar ini tidak mengikat, menyebabkan kita sulit berinovasi. Ya, sehingga memang pendekatan yang digunakan oleh OJK dalam membuat suatu pengaturan sifatnya adalah bertumbuh. Ya. Regulasi itu akan ada yang sifatnya adalah basic requirements yang kita sampaikan. Dan tentunya bahwa dengan banyaknya use cases yang terjadi, kita akan menggunakan use cases atau contoh-contoh tadi dan melihat penyelesaiannya, dan kemudian itulah yang akan menjadi kunci atau hal-hal yang menjadi perhatian dalam menciptakan tadi baik suatu infrastruktur maupun kerangka, SOP, pedoman maupun tadi ya memperkuat sistem deteksi secara dini, early detection. Karena memang ini menjadi penting, seperti deepfake itu memang itu yang terjadi seolah ada perintah dari seseorang yang memang authorized untuk melakukan, itu diterima oleh sistem, karena sistem ini membaca ini perintah yang benar gitu kan. Dan itu dilakukan, dan itu kejadiannya in seconds ya, yang akan sulit. Sehingga memang mau nggak mau tadi kita sendiri dari OJK sendiri terus Pak melakukan kerjasama baik dengan OECD, kita juga ada kerjasama dengan Cambridge untuk mengembangkan tadi ya, mengembangkan kapasitas, melakukan sama seperti kita melakukan IFC. Ini adalah salah satu bentuk dukungan OJK bahwa melalui Financial Summit, Fintech Summit dan Expo ini adalah kesempatan untuk baik tadi lembaga bank, lembaga non-bank maupun ITSK untuk saling berkomunikasi, berkoordinasi, mencari ilmu dari satu dengan yang lain. Dengan booth ada sekitar kalau tidak salah 54 booth, di sini bisa saling belajar karena di sini bukan hanya penyedia jasa juga, jadi di sini juga ada seperti from Mr. Morris is also coming from the having the digital educations. This is something that I think we need to grow together, collaboration, and of course ilmu ini juga tidak terbatas di OJK, tapi juga related ministry ya. Kita akan kerjasama juga dengan kementerian terkait, tentunya BSSN bersama-sama membangun ini semua sehingga attack itu yang terjadi masuk ke financial system itu coming from anywhere itu kita bisa tahan dan kita bisa early detect. Dan tentunya tadi OJK sendiri sudah memprovide dengan banyak reporting yang bisa sifatnya langsung 24 jam kejadian itu langsung terdetek, langsung terinformasi, dan bagaimana juga BI, OJK, dan Kementerian Keuangan kita bersama-sama, dan tentunya peran LPS ya sebagai penjamin simpanan berperan dalam menjaga kekuatan ekosistem, kestabilan dari financial system kita bersama. Demikian.
Terima kasih Bu Uli atas penyampaiannya. Maybe mungkin salah satu poin, I know time is almost up, but you talked about the role of collaboration, and I'd like to just maybe our final question to Robert. From your point addressing all we discussed today, what international collaborations does the industry need to have in order to make this successful?
That's a fabulous question. If we look at Indonesia, It has the largest online population in the Asian region and one of the fastest growing digital economies. It's very exciting. Yet globally, it's ranked around 49th in cyber maturity. If we look at one of its closest neighbors, Australia, they have a much smaller population with a lot slower growth in economy, yet it is ranked 5th. In some polls, it's ranked 4th. So there is a huge opportunity between these two countries to start with as close neighbors physically and strategically. I know that the Indonesian and Australian governments have signed collaboration agreements. I believe BSSN and the Indonesian government have signed agreements to collaborate in cybersecurity. CYB's role here is really to work with the governments and the regulators and the banks to then materialize that intent to collaborate into real solutions and outcomes, whether it's advisory, whether it's cyber education capabilities. You know, Australia has some really outstanding tech innovation, some of the best cyber schools and cyber education comes out of Australia, and a wealth of experience in implementing regulatory frameworks, including privacy. So there's a huge benefit for Indonesia to gain the wealth of knowledge through that cooperation. For Australia, they have access to a massive market and a thriving digital economy that they don't have access to at home. So it's really valuable for them. It's a really mutually beneficial relationship. But across the ASEAN region, we really need to look at broader cybersecurity collaboration. If you look at the Five Eyes program across the US, UK, Canada, and New Zealand, they've been collaborating for quite some time in threat intelligence and information sharing, and it's helped them create great maturity in their cybersecurity protection. So we need to look across the ASEAN region, establishing cooperation amongst ASEAN countries to share information, to be able to share data in real time of new threats that are emerging, because there could be a threat that's being tested in one location in the Philippines, and they learn from that experience, and then they attack a major target in Indonesia. So it's really crucial that we have that collaboration.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'd like to thank you all. We've had a really wonderful panel today. Unfortunately, time is up, and I know there's a lot of interesting booths and things outside that we all want to go to. We had a very rich conversation. We talked about both offense, defense, what banks are doing, what fintechs, what are the most innovative startups doing, international collaboration, and of course had a lot of really terrific insight on OJK. And I'd like to summarize by saying, look, collaboration and readiness will create opportunity. And as we face the next wave of Indonesia's fintech growth, we couldn't be more excited. So thank you all to the panelists, and thank you all to the audience. Take care.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much to all speakers. And Mr. GB Ellis as our moderator, who just lead our panel discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, give a round of applause to Ibu Uli Agustina, Bapak Victor Indajang, Mr. Robert J. Morris, Bapak Muharto, and of course, Mr. GB Ellis, who just give their experience and expertise about the cybersecurity in financial services. Thank you very much. Okay, we will have a group of photo. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Once again, 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. Please return to your seat. Ya, Bapak dan Ibu sekalian dan juga seluruh peserta kita pada kesempatan sore hari ini, baru saja kita sudah sampai di penghujung hari pertama dari penyelenggaraan The 6th Indonesia Fintech Summit and Expo 2024 Sekali lagi terima kasih kepada seluruh peserta yang sudah berpartisipasi di hari pertama. Tapi belum berakhir Bapak dan Ibu sekalian, jangan pulang dulu. Karena habis ini kita bakal nyanyi bareng dengan bintang tamu kita. Jadi sekali lagi, weh udah siap-siap nih nyanyi ya. Mana supporternya It Gitaf? Yeah! Coba lagunya yang mana? Asik. Sabar, tahan ya. Oke, sekali lagi kami ucapkan terima kasih kepada seluruh peserta yang sudah hadir di hari pertama dari penyelenggaraan acara The Sixth Indonesia Fintech Summit and Expo 2024. Tapi kami ingatkan bahwa besok di hari kedua, sekali lagi kita harapkan Bapak dan Ibu sekalian dan juga rekan-rekan bisa kembali lagi ke dalam ruangan ini pada pukul 8 pagi. Jadi registrasi sudah dibuka pada pukul 8 pagi. Kemudian tentunya di hari kedua akan menghadirkan topik pembicara yang luar biasa sesuai dengan expertise para pembicara kita besok. Dan tentu saja di penghujung acara di hari kedua dari penyelenggaraan The Sixth Indonesia Fintech Summit and Expo 2024. Kalau hari ini ada It Gitaf, besok ada siapa? Ais, apal banget 100 deh buat kamu. Oke, dan besok juga selain ada penampilan dari Juicy Lucy, kita juga akan ada hadiah juga ya. Asik, kamu manggut-manggut aja. Ada yang mau hadiah nggak? Mau hadiahnya hari ini apa besok? Maunya banyak. Dikasih sekarang atau besok? Oke, sebagai penutup aku kasih pantun dulu, tolong dijawab cakep ya. Belajar fintech di kota Casablanca. Bonus nyanyi lagu It Gitaf Berakhir di Aku. Terima kasih sudah hadir Bapak dan Ibu semua, dan tentu saja sampai besok di Indonesia Fintech Summit and Expo Day 2. Sekarang langsung saja kita sambut It Gitaf.